So you have flowers coming up and all that?
Yeah, it's really nice. I kind of wish they were there all year round. As they do.
You wish what, Jim?
You wish they were there all year round.
Yeah.
They do a blast. Blast before.
So, here, I'll give you that. I like that kind of stuff.
Well, that's good, in case I fall off my chair or something. Catch me.
That's never happened.
That never happened, Jim. Well, I got an invite to, tomorrow to Diane DeGroat's Bible study
Oh,
at her house. Huh?
Is it at night?
It's in the afternoon.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say, there's another meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, it's at 4:30.
Yeah, I'm glad she's still meeting with them.
It's really terrific, and
Yeah.
yeah, so they wanted to meet me, and it's just wonderful, I guess. Strange, but writing down questions.
She said there was a slight opening with her daughter yesterday to me.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
I hadn't
She
heard
said
that.
very, very slight, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
exciting.
I know her kids, and
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, her daughters. Yeah.
But it's the grandkids that I think she's
I know it.
really
I know.
missing.
You pay, you pay, you pay.
Yeah.
So. I just finished, I was the chair of the Tribute Garden Scholarship this
And
year.
given?
I've been on it for 4 years, so your last year you're the chair, and so on Friday we interviewed. It's the last thing we do is interview students. So we interviewed 7.
Seven. There's
7.
7 that you're interviewing, but only 2 get it, right?
Right, yeah. So it was a really good group, really hard to decide, really hard. It was a, hey
Hi,
Karen,
Karen.
it was it was the best group
Really?
that I've seen. Yeah. Just
Is Tony still on that committee?
no
No.
Bob Rizzo and I don't know. Yeah, really good committee. It was pleasure to work with them. And the guidance counselor at the high school also was very good.
Morning, Karen.
Hi, Lynn, how are you?
I get all the tough stories today, Jim. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice of you.
You got a made the shape.
Huh?
You got a made the shape. These are like fun things.
How you doing, Karen?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah.
My husband had his surgery, the eye surgery,
How'd it go?
cataract surgery. It's good. He says he sees better, but everything is lavender.
Everything's
They said that is the side effect. It's not that common, but, you know, for colors not to look right.
And that'll get back to
I
normal.
hope so.
That's
Back
it.
to normal. He thinks everything's lavender.
You could do worse than lavender. But still, yeah, geez. Wow, Michael. Yeah, color is pretty important. But he can see objects.
Huh?
He can see objects and
Yeah, he says it's getting sharper. Actually, you can see better with the eye that was operated on than the other eye with the glasses, because he had to pop the lens out. You know, because he can't use that prescription anymore for that eye. So, yeah, things are brighter and they're sharper in that eye.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So he has the other eye done on May 11th.
May 11th.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
So then you'll have, like a good new
Cataract
eyes.
surgery?
Huh?
Is it cataract surgery?
Yeah.
Okay, both of them.
You had it?
Both, yeah.
Yeah. How long ago?
The only thing is that, you know, you see distance. Well, now I think they have combination,
Yeah.
because I have to wear glasses to read.
Yeah, my friend had cataract surgery about a year ago. She needs reading glasses.
Yeah.
You know, she had a choice of either, you know, getting the reading corrected or the distance corrected. She took the distance, which is what I would have chosen.
Yeah, I have
Reading's easy.
Morning, Helen.
Hello.
There she is.
That's a fluffy outfit you've got on this morning.
Oh, my
It looks very fluffy.
Oh, it is puppy. I'm cold. I was
Are
cold
ya?
in my house. I'm cold outside.
Do you want my coat in the
No,
office?
no, this is why I'm puffy. I'm good. What do
I have a
you-
sleeping bag at home. I can whip over there and get. So. Were you guys really good students in high school? Were you really good students in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah? Kind of straight A students or AB or?
Yeah, I don't think I was straight A, but certainly I got better as I went along,
Yeah.
more involved. But where I really excelled, interestingly, were on the, what we call today the AP classes, the advanced classes.
Uh-huh.
And maybe because I was more interested,
Mm-hmm.
or I
Maybe
think
the teachers were
because-
better.
Yeah, they just recognized that I had a brain.
How about
You
you, Helen?
guys take your masks off. I can't hear a word any of you are saying.
Well, Helen, I haven't said anything worthy of
Oh,
being heard.
well, what was the
It
question?
was all about fluffies.
They were talking about fluffy clothing.
I didn't hear what Jim said.
No, I asked if any of us were really good students in high school.
Oh, I was.
Yeah?
I was salutatorian on my
You were?
second in my class.
Well, that's
Yeah.
frightening.
I should have been first. No.
It still stings, doesn't it? It still stings.
What made you ask that question?
Yeah.
Well, you know, here we are in a class, sort of a class setting, and I just wonder how you do this. Is it, you know, is it comfortable? Is it?
I did fine through high school and college, but I've been getting dumber and dumber ever since.
I got a scholarship from the state for academic achievement. That was good.
You did? Well, that's darn good. Well, I was a 1.20 student after my sophomore year of high school.
It's
That was-
interesting.
Before.
Yeah,
Interesting point system.
that was terribly
I was on
unpleasant.
a 2-point system.
See, you
No, it's
got
not 4 point.
smarter and smarter.
Well, I was going through, you know, my parents were going through a divorce and I couldn't care less, you know, so that kind of thing. So, yeah, I 4-pointed nearly the second 2 years, but yeah, once I, you know, got some hope. But yeah, those were tough days. The only time my mother was ever drunk, she came home after a parent-teacher conference, which she never did. So I skated. I was the fourth son, you know, so nobody cares. But yeah, she came home and I was in a dead sleep. And I felt this. My mother was 5'5". I was 6'1", 215, and she ripped me out of bed with booze on her breath. I mean, what is going on? And she said, your life is about to change tomorrow morning. So I didn't know that she knew a lot of my teachers. So they all went out to the bar that night afterwards, and they had a little chat about me.
And truth was spoken.
The truth, grave truths were spoken.
And how old were you then?
My sophomore year, I think I was
Oh,
14.
you were-
14. I was 14 when that happened. Yeah. Jeez.
I think teachers make a really big difference. If they have expectations for students, they really learn that. But in high school, it was, I really can remember some teachers that were very motivational for me. just to enjoy school and enjoy the subject. And high school has just made a lot more sense to
What
me.
about Mrs. Shackelford?
Huh? Well, that was third grade, but that was, most of elementary school teachers were not, in my mind, not exceptional.
I admire those elementary.
All right, so I don't want to confuse
That's
everybody,
got
but
nice teachers.
I loved elementary.
we'll probably do
school.
Cain and Abel. No, we'll probably Cain and Abel today, and then the calling of Abraham, Abraham's covenant. So this is Abraham's covenant on Genesis 12 and Genesis 4, which is in this larger package.
Did you give that to us last week? That's what,
Pardon?
you gave that to us last week?
Yeah, kind of, but, you know, if she makes them up, I'll get them up. But the chapter, or the stories in between are in here in the Bible too. So on your own, you can go, like if you want to read about Sodom and Gomorrah, it's right there. So anyway, Cain and Abel are in chapter 4. So just into your package here a little bit. So I'm
I
sorry
think we're
if
gonna
you've
hit
done
Sodom
that.
and Gomorrah. I mean, why would you miss it?
Can I get one?
I think we're gonna talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, not today, but
Oh,
yeah, that's a great story, yeah.
yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this information that you're passing us now, is that on our website?
The
Because
Bible?
how are people at home who are watching this?
Yeah, they have the Lyall.
The Lyall
They
50s.
run the Lyall 50, but
Yeah.
they don't
Well,
have.
this is
Well, I know it's like a
from the Bible.
synopsis, but I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, to have it pulled out.
Yeah,
I was explaining that to Lynn, it's just a lot easier
yes.
to concentrate on the words.
Yeah, I think
On
this
the
is
meaning.
good.
I do that at 20 to 11. It'll only take me 10 minutes.
So what you're saying, Helen, is
I
that
thought maybe if they, well,
if they got the passage
yeah,
printed out?
or Jim, if you get, may I have 2 of those? I'll just take those. Three.
Is that what?
Okay,
Here's for you.
thank you. Okay, well, why don't we,
Your Bible is, needs a little downtime, a little rest.
well, it does.
Jim, I think one.
Oh, well, here.
I'll give
My little one doesn't look
No.
No, there's, everything is there. Everyone's got the same packet.
Yeah, except the people online. I was saying if I could
Yeah.
have 2, I would give those, you know, the handouts you're giving out, I would give them to Lee.
So what,
Oh, you need more, you need an extra packet?
No, an extra copy of
Just
this.
an extra
Yeah,
copy.
okay.
well, what we can do is just have Susan, you know, she's gonna crank those out and then just put those up online.
Yeah,
It's
if,
easy
to
do,
if,
it's not
yeah, if she can put it up online.
Okay,
it's
we'll give her
perfect, then
instructions
I don't
to do
need
that.
it.
Okay.
Okay, I don't need it.
Well, here's
Well,
the
she's not gonna
second
do it
packet.
today,
You don't-
so.
You don't need it?
Well, if it's gonna go online, I don't need it, but I was just gonna give it to.
All right, we should probably come in.
Okay. I'll tell you.
Shall we pray? We ask, oh God, that you would help us to read your scriptures in the spirit that you inspired them. We ask that you would give us a sense of imagination and maybe courage to speak our truth, our questions. Give us a sense of empathy so we can enter these stories on their own terms. We pray these things through Christ our Lord. Amen. I don't think you can read anything without empathy, really. Right? Or a movie, I don't know if you watched any of the movies that were up for the Oscars. Have you seen any of them? Nomadland is worth
I've
seeing.
seen that. Have you seen?
I saw it a couple days ago.
The book, but I didn't-
You read the book?
I started,
I didn't know it was a book, but
No.
yeah, Frances McDermott is a really one of these genius actors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's the star of the show, and it's a weird combination of fiction and reality, and that's why the director got an Oscar as well. How they weave that stuff together is I would say pretty masterful. I've never seen a movie like it.
How did you see the movie? Where did you go?
It was on Hulu.
You can get it.
Hulu. I've got smart friends. I don't even know what Hulu is really, but somebody said, "Here, watch this." So
I was gonna get it, but it was gonna cost $19.99.
it's expensive. It's expensive. But if you have a kid
But I may watch it now.
but if you have a kid in college who has Hulu, then
Oh,
you
yeah,
I didn't know that either. But there's not much I know. But anyway, it's worth your time to watch it. I think it's
I saw Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
yeah.
That's the only one of the Academy Awards.
Okay, yeah. But it's one of those things, I bring this up because it's one of those things, if you really want to get the most out of a novel or out of a movie, certainly out of the Bible, you have to be willing to enter the story, with whatever one it is, on the story's back. Not, you know what I mean? The story is the boss, not the reader. You see what I mean? It's like what I was talking about fly fishing yesterday too. The stream is the boss, not the fisherman. And and that's an empathetic approach. I think it's just so important. Otherwise, you bounce off of the story, and that's true. I think of these biblical stories especially. And the big stories of our faith, the resurrection, the whole bit is you have to be willing to enter the story. And one of the ways we describe that in the Christian church is we say that is faith. You enter the story, and the story becomes a part of you, and you can see that God over and over and over throughout the Bible calls. Diane, I'm sorry, we're full. No, this is your chair right here, young lady. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can everyone see Diane from home?
Good morning.
Morning. So anyway, that is a key concept in reading a person. If you have a relationship with a person, you have to be able to enter their world on their terms. If you're reading a novel, you have to enter the story on its terms. If you want to watch a movie, same thing. The Bible, especially true. You have to be willing to enter the story on the story's terms. We call it empathy. And in the Christian world, we call it faith. Does that make sense? I mean, the opposite is true too. Teaching at Marist College, and I gave movies as assignments once in a while. But that was true there too. Some kids just couldn't enter it. It's just a dumb story. I don't want to learn from it. I gave the movie Forrest Gump for some reason years ago, and there was one kid that says, "I just hate this story. It makes no sense. It's not possible," and I hated it. Right? Couldn't enter it. Couldn't enter the story. And then you can't understand it. And so I think empathy for me is one of the paramount things you must be willing to do in order to really dig into these stories. Okay? I mean, I think I made the point. Okay? Today, hopefully we're going to finish the final stories in Genesis 1 through 11. Today we're going to start with Cain and Abel. But what we want to keep in mind, I know we're drilling this into your head, trying to. The first 11 chapters of Genesis are mythical in nature. They are stories about you. In other words, they are stories about everybody you know. They're stories about me. They're stories about every human being that's ever lived. They are universal stories for everyone. Right? See that? When we're done with chapter 11, which will be today, hopefully, start chapter 12, now we start a more historical, it's what I would call a stylized theological narrative at 12. That's Abram and Sarai. All right, so it's set, that's those stories in 12 on out. Those stories are set in an historical setting. But you still have to remember the people that are writing those stories that have definitely a historical quality to it are writing theological history. They're writing it to make a point, in other words, theological point. They're not just talking about something that happened. They're writing it down because it's important what happened to anyone that reads it. But we'll get into that more later, okay? Next week maybe. But for now, we're dealing with mythological stories that have to do with you. So I'll start with this as an introduction of Cain and Abel. Do you know anyone that was born with a silver spoon in their mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah? Where they're just gifted, they can kind of do no wrong, they're the favorite, they're the chosen one. My brother was like that. My brother Steve was like that. My eldest son of my mother. Could do no wrong, no matter what. And he was awesome, amazing. Anybody else? Do you know anyone historically that feels that way? Somebody who's just the blessed one.
Well, how do we know? I mean, how do we know if we know? I mean, I have a little problem with the concept of a silver spoon in the mouth. I mean, you may look at somebody from your perspective and think that they did everything right, they were perfect or had everything, from the beginning and throughout their life. But that's from our perspective.
Sure. Well,
So I don't know that I could say anybody I know that I know that I could be sure that they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth and had everything all right.
Perception.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
that's
asking-
not a hard question.
but I'm asking for your perception. That's the
Okay.
very thing I'm asking for.
Okay,
Where it just seems like, they got all the opportunities.
yeah.
If something were going to go right, if it's going to go right with them, it's that's what I'm talking about. They hit the lottery, but they invested in the stock market and went crazy. People. I know a lot of people like that.
True, then. Now, if that's
Right? Doesn't mean that if you dig deep, there's not heartache and all that sort of thing. I'm not talking about that. It just seems like they're the chosen one. My brother Steve, I don't think ever interviewed for a job. He just got plucked, and just rose and rose and rose. When he died, he was the head technical translator for Ricoh Camera Company. He taught himself Japanese. Just a star, just an absolute star. This is really what's behind Cain and Abel. I think the story Cain and Abel. Shall we read it and see what you think? We've got some real good ones today.
It's chapter 4 of Genesis on the larger package.
Oh.
It's not in your Lyall 50. It's in the handouts, and the cover of it, or the front of it, will deal with probably chapter 2 and 3, and then behind that you'll find chapter 4.
So, for those of you at home that are following, it is Genesis 4, 1 through 16. Okay?
Have you found it in your packets? Okay. Helen's nodding yes.
Yeah.
Lynn, did you find it?
In an attempt to make things easier. Right? He's snorting. Is anybody there that can read it?
I will.
Okay.
Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." Later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering. But Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. And then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast?" Should I keep going?
Yeah. Yes, please.
"If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It deserves to have you, but you must rule over it." Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out into the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. And then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you walk the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." But the Lord said to him, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." And then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was then building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch.
I think that's
Thank you.
the end of the chapter. Thanks.
Terrific. So Cain gave an offering to the Lord. What was his offering?
Fruit of the soil.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't specify, it just says the fruits of the soil.
Yeah, so he's a kind of a farmer.
Yeah.
He's planting, vegetables and whatever. Yeah. And Abel, what was he doing? What was his offering?
He was like a rancher. He gave him an animal.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot's been done with these two approaches and discussed. Does God want meat or does he want vegetables? Kind of thing. Yeah, I do not think the story cares about that. That's not the important thing. They both go to the Lord in worship. They both make an offering to God. And God was happy with one and not with the other one. Does it explain why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the brilliance of some of these stories. Also, I would add the brilliance of Jesus's parables. Is sometimes it won't help you. It just leaves it there. Doesn't explain it. Have you ever given a gift to someone that was not appreciated, not received, not used.
Well, I got one from my sister that, to reverse that she felt I didn't appreciate. She gave me this and I unwrapped it. It's part of my birthday, and it was a very pretty kind of crystal looking thing with my initial, D, very fancy D in it. And I could forget. I said, well, thank you so much for this lovely paperweight.
Good one, Jim.
She said, it's not a paperweight. It's a bottle stopper, a fancy bottle stopper for a wine bottle. Maybe I could have figured that out given enough time, but I did not expect it. But she knew I enjoyed wine, and she thought this would be perfect, and she went so far to have it personalized. And I called it a paperweight. She hasn't talked to me since.
Yeah.
So it did act as a kind of stopper, didn't it?
Yes, it
In a
did.
way. It's funny. Anybody else give a gift that fell flat? If you see yourself as a gift, have you ever fallen flat? In other words, you've given yourself as a gift, as a help, and it was not received. That ever happened?
I think I used to, put the gifts out, and my children would ask for, hints. And one of my hints was it rolls up. And when they finally opened their sleeping bags, they were not unused at all. Even though each of them were, kind of special, designed or pictures for them. But with all the hints leading up to opening it, they were very disappointed.
It was kind of like getting underwear for Christmas or
Well,
something.
speaking of underwear, my dad owned a department store. Christmas time, lots of presents under the tree, lots of them. 95% of that, socks, underwear, a shirt, it was all leftovers from the store. And, and you just keep digging and digging and digging for something, any value. Yeah, boy. Well, here we have a situation where two gifts are offered, one is received. And what happens to Cain? What happened? What's his reaction to it?
Well, he's angry and he's unhappy and,
Jealous.
yeah.
Jealous? Hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And God, from time to time, if you read it a certain way, God, throughout the Bible, asks some of the stupidest questions for the angels. Why are you
Right. Stupidest, you mean obvious.
Right. I mean, it's rhetorical. These are rhetorical questions. In the garden, Adam and Eve, where are you? Like God doesn't know, right? So these questions can often, look ridiculous unless you take them rhetorically. And so he's saying, why are you downcast? I think an angel of the Lord, or the Lord himself, certainly knows why. Anyone would know why. So then it begs the question, then why ask it? Why are these questions asked? Why are they aired? Like if you know somebody you love is hurting, why would you say, why are you hurting?
I guess you want them to articulate it,
Right.
to explain it, so
Yeah.
a little bit, so they themselves understand it.
Mm-hmm.
What's bothering them.
Exactly, to air it. Sometimes I want to change the wording in the Bible from time to time, just to offer a different way of doing it. To say, tell me. We all know what's going on. Tell me. And maybe that would get a different response.
I think so often we respond out of a superficial emotion. And by saying, why are you that way, will make the person stop and think of other, deeper issues which are really causing the reaction. So in this situation, it's like, so he's saying, why are you so angry, Cain? So then you gotta tumble it and think, well, Cain's angry. First of all, he was rejected. He was outbid, so he's feeling jealousy. But what else? What else? Maybe he's got underlying issues with his brother. And this was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right. Maybe this wasn't the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so then, is it the angel of the Lord? I think it is. Says, you're burning up inside. And is there an offer of a change of course? Like, we can see where this is going. This is not just a bad day. This is a murderous day that's developing. Does Cain get any advice about what's possible to get this thing off the track?
Rule over his sin.
Yeah.
That is a question I have, though. When the Lord tells Cain, if you do what is right, will you not be accepted? What had Cain done wrong for God not to accept his gift? So, what does he mean by that? Is that...
Yeah, well, and sometimes in the Bible too, just so you know, there are these moments that feel muddled, and you're left feeling like this, like what's going on. These are the grammar's funny, it's weird, and that's usually a sign that the translation is tricky when they do that. But also, if you dig a little bit, Cain is being asked, you can master this thing.
Mm-hmm. Rule over it.
You can rule over it, which is pretty strong language. This is a really old story too. So we're talking to, not pre-historical people, but back a long time, 4,000 years. So they're already talking about human beings' power to say no to sin, sinfulness, anger. You can change your mind. You have the power to change your mind, which is pretty sophisticated for 4,000 years ago. You can change your mind. Can you? Is it true?
Sure.
So it's talking about
Don't we
truth?
do that all the time? Change
Yeah.
our
I think
minds?
he's not talking so much about what did Cain do wrong with his offering. He's saying, what did you do wrong with your reaction?
Yeah, that was what
And
I would
that's-
have to figure out what God was telling you
Yeah.
about. Was it your reaction to what you did, or did you do something wrong with your gift? Was that the wrong gift?
No, I think he's saying you did wrong by your reaction.
By becoming angry at your
Yes, and
brother.
so you need
Right.
to master that. Because if you don't, then you're gonna
And he
sin,
did, right.
probably.
If you give a gift, is it about you?
No.
Well, of course it is. I always give gifts that are about me. I try not to do that anymore, but this is a man's failing, I think, Jim.
Oh,
Right? We give gifts that we like to somebody else.
Of course.
Right? And it's got this little quality to it, doesn't it, this story? Because he's ticked off. He's ticked off. This is about me giving God my gift.
Right. Yeah.
And
Well, Lynn can tell you a story about that.
Yes. How would you like to get a croquet set for Mother's Day?
well, of course.
Oh,
Of course you're going to get a croquet. For Mother's Day?
Yeah.
Do you,
You've been waiting.
Let's
you're
all
going to
have
get a
croquet
Bulls set this year. I think that's a beautiful. What's your point?
I never lived that one down. That-
Yeah. But isn't that so? We give gifts. We're talking about empathy again. See, we give gifts that they will love, not what I love. Of course, God is going to love my gift. It's terrific. But no. And then do we have the quality of character to say, okay, you didn't like it, or does it become this terrible offense to Cain, which it does. So it has something to do too with an ego that's a little out of balance, maybe.
And God sort of warned him about that, didn't he?
What's that?
God warned him about ruling over the feeling you have,
Right.
and he didn't do that,
Right.
so,
Yeah. Cain, it's not about you.
no.
It's
no.
not about you. You've made it about you, but it's not about you.
Mhm.
And that's the trouble. And now you're going to do some serious harm. So what happens? He invites his brother to take a little walk out, and a little stroll out in the field. He kills him. And then God comes back again and asks one of these questions.
Well, I'm wondering if there's something to do with the fact that Cain is the older brother, and usually the firstborn are the favored ones.
Great observation. Yeah.
Okay, Abel outshone Cain, and Cain didn't like it.
It's a great observation.
The wrong pecking order, right?
Right, wrong pecking order. And do we ever see that again? The wrong person gets picked. Anybody come to mind?
Joseph.
Right.
I'm sorry, what was your response?
Joseph.
Joseph.
Wrong one. Right. Wrong person picked.
David.
Yeah. David. Wrong, definitely wrong person. Anybody else come to mind? There's a bunch of them. Yeah. And that's a really good comment, Karen. Very helpful. Where it's wrong. It's wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so God comes to Cain in the field and asks the question, where's your brother? Does the questioner already know where the brother is? Where Abel is? His blood is talking to me. So he already knows. And yet, the question is asked anyway, again, where is your brother? And Cain responds by saying, it's a famous saying now, in English parlance, am I my brother's keeper? What does that mean, that question? Am I my brother's keeper?
Am I responsible for him?
Do I owe him anything? Some people have kind of supercharged that question and have offered, am I my brother's maker? In other words, there's no hope for my brother unless we help him make him. It's like a village. You need a village to raise a kid. What's needed? What do you think the answer is? It's not answered. What's the answer to that question? Am I my brother's keeper? I've heard that. People talk like this in Western Michigan. Am I my brother's keeper? How can that question be answered?
It's the way it should be. That's, I think, what God intended us to act like. But I think in most cases, people don't feel that way. But yeah, it goes to like Jesus saying, love God and then love your neighbor.
Right? Yeah. You can see these themes get developed right through the Bible. They get elevated and they get bigger. You can see it. This is early Bible, right? We're in chapter 11, and these things are already being established. These issues, these stories are already being established. Am I my brother's keeper? I mean, are we totally each other's keepers? Totally? And this is the big debate. I don't want to get into politics too much, but that's so often the debate is individual achievement and stick-to-itiveness and working hard and all that, being responsible. And you got the other side saying, well, you need to offer opportunity. You see how the debate goes? It goes back and forth and back and forth. It seems to me like it's both. You have to have both opportunity and you have to have people stewarding their lives. Does that make sense? But you see it beginning already way back. Okay. All right. So there are consequences to this action, to this murder. The murder of Abel by his brother Cain. And now what? Now what's going to happen?
Cain is banished.
Vanished. They're east of Eden right now, but now he's going to be east of East Eden.
His farming days are over.
His
Yes.
farming days are over.
It's such a successful farm.
And how desperate is it to be alone without your tribe in the ancient world? It's a death sentence. Yeah, he's not going to make it. He won't make it. Yeah. And he knows it. And so he protests, right? And so what happens next?
God puts a mark on him so that no one will touch him, harm him.
God-
So in effect, he wants him to make sure he gets really punished by being alone.
Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting take. Yeah. And yet, he's not to be touched.
Not by humans.
Not by humans. Is there any way we can see that God will follow this murderer and protect him? What do you think about that?
Well, God will avenge anybody who kills Cain.
Right? I mean, what do you think
So
about
he's
that?
protecting Cain at the same time as making him sort of miserable.
Right. What do you think about that? I mean, that's a complicated combination, don't you think? Right? I'm going to protect you, and you're going to face consequences. Is that a weird? It would be so much easier just to banish him, and the story would end right there. But it doesn't. God is always following these sinners. He does that with Adam and Eve, right? They get banished from the garden, and God follows them. Weird. What do you think of God, of a God like that? Excuse me. What kind of character are we beholding here.
He still cares about him. He knows what kind of person he is, but he still cares enough to protect him, and so.
Yeah.
It feels like God is always rooting for the redemption in
Right.
these people.
Don't you think? Yeah.
He still has a chance, maybe.
He had a chance to be with me at Eastern Penitentiary, being surrounded by, well, being in a circle, let's put that way, of 30 convicted murderers. Some of them, behind bars for 40 years, and to see what kind of men they became. It's pretty impressive. You just want to write them off, but they become these fabulous people. Hard one. Okay, so God follows. It ends with God making a promise to Cain, right? And let's see if I have something yummy up here. I do. Anybody want one? So we'll go to the next one, the Nephilim. Is that where we're headed? One of my favorite stories. This is all right, so we're going to end with Cain and Abel. We don't have the tower. Sometimes.
The tower was in the original document from last week. I mean the scripture.
All right, we're on the Nephilim now.
Are you going to touch on that?
The Nephilim?
No, you're passing that.
The tower? I think the tower is after that.
Yeah, it's after that.
Yeah, okay. So now we're going to get into what's called the flood cycle. The flood cycle, almost every ancient civilization has a story about a flood, right? And they have different reasons for it. And so, some would say, okay, this is just a version of a universal story that almost all civilizations share. But this one, I think the difference is the reasons and the details in this story are different than other flood stories from the Middle East, of course, but even in wider circles of other civilizations. But so the flood cycle, as we call it, it starts out with this story about the Nephilim. Does anyone want to read that little section on the Nephilim?
Where are we in
We're at Genesis 6,
The wickedness in the world.
1.
Mhm. I'll read it. You read it?
Yep.
When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of all, men of old, men of renown. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground. For I regret that I have made them. Is that the story?
Yep.
Is that it?
Thank you. Yep. So this is the only time in the Bible where the Bible speaks about mythical subjects outside of the Bible, the Nephilim. The only time. So talk to me about these Nephilim. What does it say that they are? What are they? Who are these people? Who are these creatures?
They were supposed to be other gods, weren't they? Or-
They're kind of like gods. They're celebrities.
So, yeah.
They're celebrated. They're celebrities. Men of renown.
Mhm.
Right? And what do these men of renown do? Hey, baby, come on over here.
They like the human women.
That's right. That's right. And they could attract anybody they want. They're
The
celebrities.
Sons of God, or Nephilim,
Hmm?
the reference to the son, it's in
Yeah.
verse 2, the sons of God, so that the daughters of humans were beautiful. So
They are the
talking about
Nephilim. Yep. Now, why is that so egregious? Why is that so bad? For God to just want to wipe out the entire earth, even the animals. What's so bad about what they're doing? It's not humans that are doing this. It's the Nephilim that are doing it. They're lighting the fuse for the flood. That's what's being established. Is that how you're reading it?
Mhm.
Right? That's how I read it. It's the Nephilim that are causing this. So what's so bad about it?
Well, if the Nephilim are celebrities, then human beings are adoring the Nephilim when they should be adoring God.
Mm-hmm. Right. Good one.
Well, does it say that the human beings were adoring the Nephilim, though?
Well, they're certainly
Maybe
having
they
children
were,
by
maybe
them.
they weren't. Sounds
Well, it
to
says
me
that-
like the Nephilim were just doing anything they wanted to do. I'm not sure the humans had a big choice in that.
Well, they were very attractive. So when they say, "Hey, baby," somebody else is saying, "Yes, daddy." Right?
Yeah.
And obviously, I get around too much. But that's
But they're referred to as the sons of God, right?
they're like godlike. Yeah, godlike.
That particular reference is a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Say more. What's the confusion?
Just like the whole section, the whole scripture passage, you know.
Well, something's gone terribly wrong. I mean, it's a deal breaker. God is going to flood the earth because of this story.
Well, they had children, the Nephilim and the human women, so obviously they were not one or the other, and maybe this is what the big problem was.
What do you think about celebrities today? What do you think? Who's the Jenner that's transgender who's going to run for governor? Caitlyn Jenner is going to run for governor of California. And also Matthew McConaughey is thinking about running for governor in Texas. Celebrities, right? Jesse Ventura was governor of Minnesota.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California. Anybody else?
Clint Eastwood was the mayor of Carmel.
That's right.
Donald Trump, President of the United States.
Donald Trump, yeah, good one. Yeah, sure, of course, right? Ronald celebrity, I would say.
Right.
Well, you, I mean, he strikes me
Yeah.
as a
Oh,
celebrity,
yeah.
Sorry,
right?
president, yeah.
Yeah. Kanye West
Well,
got himself into the Oval Office. That's it. I didn't make it to the Oval this year. Right? Yeah, there's what is it about celebrity that is so egregious?
Doors open for them for no reason other than that they're famous. It's like not their abilities don't seem to come into play.
Like the Kardashians. What do you think about the Kardashians?
Waste of time.
Well, there you go. Waste of time. Waste of time. You're not, but do you know what's going on with Chloe?
I don't.
You're not following it?
I'm sorry to say that I'm not reading their
He's
Twitters.
not keeping up with the Kardashians.
Jim. But that's it, you parlay your celebrity into power. And in this case, what's focused on is the power to move people any way you want to. The closest I ever got to a celebrity was Bob Schuler. Yeah. And I watched him move people like nothing.
who?
Bob Schuler, my first
Oh,
my first
okay,
boss,
yeah.
yeah, my first boss, yeah, he could move people like crazy.
When you say move,
All right, well, here's an example. I got to the cathedral in the morning, gonna head up to my office on the 8th floor, and I waltzed into the Tower of Hope, and all the finance people, maybe 15 people, are in the lobby weeping. So it's like, what's going on here? Are we out of money? Well, Bob Schuler that night made the decision by himself to, and the building could accommodate this, the walls, we're going to remove the finance department completely from I think they're on the 5th floor, just absolutely wipe it out. And we're going to put the Crystal Cathedral Family Life Center on the 5th floor. And it was darn near done by morning, gone. So they had nowhere to go. Same thing happened with the bookstore, which was bigger than the sanctuary. Same thing. At night, he had a notion, called up buildings and grounds, gone. Move people because he's Bob Schuler.
Very good.
He could, so he did. So he did. Is this egregious enough? I'm not trying to lead you anywhere. Is this egregious enough to wipe out the earth?
well, I think their tendency, you're talking about celebrities self-absorbed, really overrate themselves. And that's why they end up in these political offices, because they can, charm their way in, but once they get in, they don't have an idea what to do. And so they fail. And of all those people you mentioned, with possibly the exception of Reagan, they really didn't do what they were going to do. In fact, quite the opposite, what they said they would do. And the Nephilim, the problem, I think, from reading what's here and what you wrote, is that they were focused on how great they were. And they forgot that God was out there. Or they ignored God. And God wanted to be worshipped. I mean, that was the purpose of creation, I believe. And they had no time for God. They're pretty busy just building a great, a great community, building a great civilization. So I think they just ignored God. They just took him out of the equation.
You think it's about narcissism? I appreciate that, by the way, Jim. Narcissism. We're going to see this in the Tower of Babel as well. The narcissism. Can one become fully human if one does not acknowledge God? Is that the question that's being asked? Is, you know,
Probably so.
is a self, and we talk about this all the time at Pine Rest. Is it our greatest hope for a self to be at one with oneself, with others, and with God? Is that what health is? And we talk about this all the time at Pine Rest. Is that what health is? Do you need all three? You have to have a loving regard for yourself, you have to have a loving regard for others, and you have to have a loving regard for God. Is that health? Is that a healthy self? It's a good question. And we see in the Nephilim that they couldn't care less. They couldn't care less about others, couldn't care less about God. All they could care about is their own self. And if that's the case, people that are narcissistic, for instance, do they get smaller and smaller and smaller? It's ironic, isn't it? I think they do. They get smaller. That's why we need to give ourselves over to, in order to be a healthy self, we have to give ourselves over to others, something greater than ourselves. We give ourselves over to God, so that we can have, well, the result is a healthier self. Make more sense? If you don't get it, what's going to happen when this spins out of control? What do you envision a world controlled by narcissists? What kind of world are we looking at? It's pretty ugly. Now, for next week, the very next story is about Noah, and he's referred to as a Sadiq. A little Hebrew word. It's in your Lyall 50, I think. A Sadiq is a righteous person. So it's a contrast. They're going to make a contrast between a Nephilim and a Sadiq. The Sadiq makes a ark in the middle of the desert because he's listening to God, and for him it's the right thing to do. A Nephilim is going to do whatever's right for them, and the results are disastrous. So they're going to make that contrast. Nephilim and Sadiq. And the Sadiq, as we know, saves the world. Okie dokie. All right. And then we have the Tower of Babel, and then that ends the mythological section of Genesis.
So you're going to cover, or that's going to be covered next week, those two sections?
Yeah, well, we do that.
And then you launch into
Abram's
the historical side of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sound reasonable? Yeah.
Very good.
And I think you have those scriptural passages in your original packet.
Yeah.
And we won't use that one on Abraham chapter 12 until the week after next.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was very good.
Okay. Go out and get yourself a Nephilim. You'll love it for a weekend. You'll love it.
I was thinking about the movie, one of the movies about Noah's Ark. And I think, at the end, when they're attacking the ship, and there's these black, tall things, were those Nephilims? I guess not.
In the movie?
Yeah, in the movie.
I never saw it.
They're like monsters or something.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, check out the movie, whatever it's called.
Nomadland?
Nomadland. It's
Oh,
worth your time. It really is worth your time. It's very thoughtful,
It's worth $20,
interesting.
okay.
What's that?
It's worth $20, I'll do it.
Well, I have plenty to pay for it. It's easy.
Oh, don't worry, he does.
I'd like to see the father with
Yeah, I think that's.
Oh, I
Anthony
want to see that
Hopkins,
too.
but
I
it
love
looks like
that
it's
movie.
is that? 83 years old, right?
I love him. Oh.
And they, that's another one I want to say. That's on race. They. I don't know much more about it, but they said it's really worth watching. So, I don't know.
Get your heart to
No, I told him. Oh, thank you for doing this. I think it's very interesting. I enjoy it.
I don't know, but I do find the asking for his,
If everybody, I don't see why we need to, if we're all inoculated.
Yeah, it's all good.
And the other problem, right, is no, if somebody comes in after we're all inoculated, somebody comes in and how we know if we're inoculated. We need that passport card. Then we can all just come to church and show our card. Come in. So, yeah, that's all I say is, I think we,
yeah.
I can hear, yeah, I
don't
can hear.
hear.
Yeah, and I can't hear anyone. That's why I say, get the mask. Because there's no reason for two of you, if you're too far away from us.
The distance, I think, is